Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to this analysis session on the CLAT 2022. So, finally, after all these speculations which were doing the rounds yesterday, whether it will be postponed, whether it will be cancelled, so finally the exam was conducted today across 25 states in the country. And expected number of people taking the exam today is more than 60,000 students. 60,000 aspirants have taken the exam all across the country today. And today we have with me, I have with me the CL experts. We have Rahul Reddy, we have Siddharth Mehta sir, we have Priyanka Singh ma'am, we have Pooja along with us, and we look at each of these sections one by one before we come to you with the score analysis, and we talk about what could be the expected cutoff for the top NLUs. But before that, uh, before you get to know about your scores through the consortium, the score calculator from Career Launcher is going live in another 15 minutes. Post this session, you can go to the score calculator page, all the action happening on lawentrance.com, and you can check your scores on about the today's paper on real-time basis. So what you have done, what you can expect, you'll get to know through the CL experts. The answer key is already up. The score calculator page will be live in another 15 minutes. And you can check your performance, what you have done in CLAT 2022, so that you have a better idea about any future planning which you have to do in terms of backup plans, in terms of any other colleges options in case that would be required. So let's go ahead, start the analysis, and we'll look at each one of these sections, exactly what happened today. But before that, as I said, exam conducted in the offline mode across 25 states. Yesterday, it seemed that probably the exam might get postponed because of the issues in some of these states, especially if you talk about Telangana, Bihar in particular, and Uttar Pradesh. But the consortium promised the students that things will go as normal, and they have got the assurances from the authorities. So I don't, till till now I haven't come across any untoward incidents any as far as CLAT 2022 is concerned. So I believe the paper was conducted smoothly across all the states as far as today evening is concerned. As it was expected, so the paper had the carbon copy for the OMR, which you had taken it along with you, so you can check it. It is done to ensure transparency, and for the last 2 years, the consortium has been doing this. They are providing the carbon copy of the OMR, so you know what exactly you have done, and it also becomes easier for you when you go to our score calculator page. You simply have to mark the answer which you have marked in the paper. You know which option you have marked in the paper. You can simply mark it there, and you'll get your real-time score. This is also being done by the consortium to ensure that maybe tomorrow or day after, when they come out with the paper and they release their own answer key, if there is any objection from your end, you can raise that objection. So you can check your scores at www.lawentrance.com/clat. The score calculator gets live in another 15 minutes. By 7:20, the calculator will be live, and you can check your scores, what you have done section by section today. Now, the paper, the exam pattern was as it was last year, so no changes. The number of questions were there as per the expectation. Reading comprehension 30, GK 35. Legal again had the maximum number of questions. So the pattern was exactly similar to 2021. In 2020, there was a slight difference, one question here and there between GK and legal, but they stuck to the paper which was there, the pattern which was there in 2021. So at least there was no surprise as to the number of questions which many of you were talking about yesterday in different groups. Will there be a change? No, there was no change. We had 150 questions, and the distribution of questions was exactly how it was expected. Okay, so begin with the paper always starts with the reading comprehension section, and I would now call upon Rahul Reddy sir to dissect or decode this section for you.
Right. Thank you, Amitendra, and good evening to all those who are watching. This is Rahul Reddy, the city head Bangalore and Mysore. Okay, coming to the English section, what are the first things that we see? One, I think important to note, the paper was a little lengthy, right, in terms of sheer length, but then readability was not really a problem. We didn't have any complexity. We didn't have, let's say, Kafka or any kind of, deadly philosophy kind of passages. So it wasn't really difficult to read. And as we keep advising our students, it is important to read quickly because you can refer back to the passage. And this is exactly what happened today. Very important that you actually refer back to the questions and use elimination to solve to come to the correct answer. And for this process of referring and using elimination, you need that little extra time, and which means that the reading has to be completed in something like 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the passage. About the type of questions, it largely follows the similar pattern from 2020-21 with small changes. We have about 10 factual questions, 5 questions inferences, about 5 questions of contextual vocab, which is a little higher. Plus, you add about 2 questions which are fill in the blank type. There also probably your knowledge of vocab gets tested. So those who believe that CLAT does not have vocab tested, I think let's be clear, it does test it. They are just not the direct vocab kind of questions. They are much more context sensitive. Then we had 3 questions of central idea, which is again standard. 3 questions of tone, which is probably one more than what we had last year. And 3 questions of figure of speech, which is again a little more than what is expected. But overall, no great surprises. Small changes are expected from year to year, right? And broadly, the strategy should remain the same. We in English normally look at slightly higher number of attempts with the expectation that a few will go wrong. It is still expected. I think in discussion with our experts, the key should be released soon. But then there will always be a few questions where experts also disagree. And then CLAT consortium might disagree with all of us, right? And that happens again year to year. But the number of ambiguous questions are not very high, maybe about 3 to 4 questions. So overall, I would say for somebody who's practiced, has the strategy right, it's a decent paper, and you could have attempted 25, 26 questions in 30 minutes, and any score about 21, 22 can be considered a good score.
Yeah. So thanks, all. Thank you so much. In fact, a lot of students are talking about the chat box, and someone is saying leave the GK part and only give the answer key for the other parts. Actually, so we do understand GK was definitely a surprise for most of the kids tomorrow. While the pattern had no surprises, we expected 7 passages to be there, and it were there actually 7 passages, 35 questions. But overall, this year was very different if we talk about the general knowledge section. And time and again, what we have been talking about, don't start late. GK is something which requires you to start early, not just from the habit perspective, but also consortium can throw surprises at any point of time. So if one looks at today's general awareness section, I feel overall, and what based on the feedback what we have got from the students, I think they are rating it from medium to a little bit difficult section because of the unfamiliarity with lots of the passages which were there. While the Russia-Ukraine war-based passage is something which most students would have found it comfortable and to the surprise of many, there was one spelling-based questions actually wherein the president's name, different spellings were given, and actually one had to identify the correct spelling. So I thought probably by mistake they have put that question here instead of reading comprehension passage. But I think that was one thing, one event which most of the students were definitely familiar with. But if you talk about the rest of the 6, some of them might be familiar with with some of the, but not all of them actually. So overall, some of the events, if we talk about, they were completely off track. And for those students who thought that 4 months before the examination would be good enough, I think they were taken by surprise. There were a lot of questions which were from 2020 and 2021. These particular years I'm talking about, not the event in particular, but the years we are talking about actually. I think the other passage where students might have felt themselves to be in the comfortable zone was about the Armed Forces Special Act. I think we have covered that on our YouTube platform as well when we discussed about that event. And this is in relation to what happened in December. So in the Northeast actually. So I think that was something most of the students would have been able to recall. But overall, this was a medium difficulty level section. Until last year, GK is something which most students were finding very, very easy. Actually, this time they were definitely taken by a surprise. But nevertheless, if one had given a little bit of extra time, I believe, and what's based on the feedback, I can say an ideal attempt would be close to somewhere around 30, 31, and one could have easily got a score of 25, 26. One could easily manage to get a score of 25, 26. So GK, contrary to how it is felt or how we have seen in the previous 2 years when this change was introduced, this time was, I think, if you look at this paper, this time was slightly difficult on the moderate side of it. But overall, if one was prepared well, if one had covered the topics well, one had read about the events well, I think one would be able to score at least 25, 26. And there is nothing something which was possible. A little extra time, contrary to what we talk about, 10, 12 minutes, maybe 15 minutes was required for this section. So overall, similar to the other section, this was slightly lengthy as well. Not in that sense, but yeah, difficulty level. Okay. People are talking about the legal section actually in particular. So I would request Pooja to look at the legal section, because you being a legal faculty, interacting with the students for last 2 hours, I think nobody can give a better insight about this section.
Yes. So I think legal again was a bit unexpected because students always believe, they always have this notion that will get very complex question, very complex passages, sare unfamiliar passages would be asked, all of that. They always have this fear, this apprehension that if the passage is about some topic that I don't know, or maybe the topic that is familiar to me but is not giving the entire data or not giving the entire information about the principle, I won't be able to connect to the facts. But this time the pattern was a bit different with regard to the passage. If we can see, even if you did not know about the topic, it was very easy this time to derive to the answer, to connect to the facts, to derive the principle, connect it to the facts, and get to the right answer by the elimination method itself. So I think
I think there's some connection issue, internet troubles at times, which can happen. So while we will have Pooja back, let me continue with this session actually. So as she was talking about, the unfamiliarity was an issue actually. But overall, if you look at the legal section, if you talk about unfamiliarity, I would say not the right word. In fact, most of the passages, students, and talking about the international context over here, the two of the passages were based on marriages actually. So we're talking about the religion and all actually. So family law related passages were there actually. Surprisingly, there were no passage on torts this time. There was nothing out there about torts actually, which is generally one of the most frequented areas when we talk about the legal section, basically in most of the law entrances, and especially over the years in CLAT, we have seen that torts is one, but as a surprise, that was not there in this year's paper actually. Overall, if you look at the difficulty level of this section, it was easy to moderate, not very easy, not very difficult. So we can rate it somewhere around easy to moderate. And one of the aspect was multiple references to the passages was required, because the questions were quite similar actually. So if one was not careful reading the questions, actually they would have found it a little difficult actually, and maybe they would have found that the options are probably the same actually, or the question has been printed once again. There is a misprint happening over there. So multiple references were to be done. One was required to be a little careful. But compared to the last year it seems for most of the sections was quite easier. This time, legal even was slightly difficult in terms of the option. So if you look at all these aspects, feedback based on the based on the students, I think 33, 34 would be considered an ideal attempt, and probably one would be able to get with this attempt definitely a score of 28 to 30. So from a section wise perspective, if you look at legal reasoning and not taking it in silos actually along with the paper, I think 2830 can definitely be considered a good score. uh, One of the areas which is basically a pain point is definitely the logical reasoning, and of course we have Siddharth Mehta sir. All of you know him, the critical reasoning expert. But before I call Siddharth, I would request each one of you to do follow us on the social media platforms. All the actions updates will keep on happening over there. So over to you, Siddharth, for the logical reasoning sections, and you have taken the paper today, so I think you are you know what students have felt inside the examination hall while you were with them today evening.
Right. Thanks, Amitendra. Good evening, everyone. So, see, my view is this, that the good part, the only good part about this section were that passages were short, and a very quick reading would have given the essence of what passage is all about. But the problematic part was that the questions were tricky, and there are quite a few questions which are not very clear in terms of what they seek to answer, seek to question. I mean, 3 to 4 questions were like that. In comparison to the last year, paper was definitely a notch difficult. Last year, I remember that elimination worked very well in this logical reasoning section. But this year, what happened was, after eliminating the two options, two were very close, and both were debatably right or debatably wrong, whichever way you want to look at it. So that's why I'm saying that in comparison to last year, this section was difficult. Of course, there was no question on analytical reasoning, same as what happened in the last year. Personally, I think that any attempt between 22 to 25 is good attempt, and 16 to 18, I will consider anything above 18 to be a very good score, because as I said, that there were many questions which had very close option. So I will say that 16 to 18 is a good score in this particular section.
Yeah,
Okay,
Amitendra, if I
thank
can have
you.
a minute or two.
Sure.
I think a couple of important points here is that when the passages are short, then you save time. And what do you do with that time? You have to spend that time working the questions. Now, unlike last year, there were very few questions where answer choices were obvious. If I have to say, okay, what are the easy questions in this section, I'd probably struggle to find more than 7 or 8 easy questions, right? But there were a lot of moderate questions where if you could work out the answers, do the hard work, work with the options, eliminate the options and keep moving. Okay. So again, as I said, it's okay to get a few wrong. Yeah, I think there's an echo. Somebody else's mic. Yeah. So we need to work and eliminate options. In most of the questions, two choices could be eliminated. Most of the questions. Even the tough questions, the two choices could be eliminated. Now, what do you do if you have a 50-50 shot? You go for it. Imagine you attempt 4 questions where you're not sure, you're caught between two choices. The only way you will get a negative if is all 4 go wrong. That's a very low probability event. If 2 of the 4 go right, you get a plus 1.5. Right? So there's no point leaving questions because two choices are close. We'll have to actually take our chances, attempt a decent number of 50-50 shots, and let probability work for us. Thanks, Amitendra.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul. I think this will definitely help the students who will be appearing for reality. This advice of yours will be appearing for reality next week. Uh, Last section, obviously, we are moving into, and I think there's something which most CLAT aspirants don't love to talk about, but today I think they would have felt really comfortable with this area. And I won't take much time before about this section. In fact, I would straight away call Priyanka. Priyanka, if you can take up the quantitative techniques section, you also gave the paper today, and I think you are the most right person to talk about this particular section. In fact.
Thank you, Amitain sir. And hello, everyone. I think this was the saving grace this year, this particular section. And I would have to say this time consortium got it right. Unlike 2020, they had a geometry and mensuration caselet, and 21 had a lot of errors and mistakes in terms of options and also in the data consistency. This time, thankfully, this particular section was error proof. There was no ambiguity in the data, and I would say for few people, those who have got their arithmetic concepts right, especially percentages, and ratio proportion, because the entire section was about percentages and ratio proportion. No other concept has been tested. So if those kind of things are comfortable, if anyone was comfortable on that, two sets, the first two sets, one which was on the student enrollment in various departments, and the other one were about a company's turnover, and I think those two were manageable. And even the third one, somebody who's good at calculation skills, but that would have required some more time. But everyone that I've spoken to was of the feeling that yes, 9 to 10 is something everyone can look at in this particular section. And there was very few chances of getting, if you have worked it clearly, if you have worked properly with the data, there were less chances of getting your answer wrong. So I think the numbers were comfortable to work with. They were only had to calculate like 20, 15, 20%. So the numbers were comfortable, no big calculations. And I think this would have given, this section would have helped students to come over the shock that GK would have given them. So if somebody has come to quants, for example, I think some of the people would not even check the quant section. For those who have checked, I'm sure 8, 9, 10, or some kind, those kind of attempts, but definitely could be fetched from this particular paper. And for 22, I would say quant was saving grace for most of the people. I would feel that.
Completely agree. In fact, for a student like me who has not been good in mathematics, I was able to attempt 14 of them, and I'm pretty sure I've got all of it correct actually. I did spend 15 minutes to get that actually, and it's been long time I've left the school. I think this was definitely a saving grace, and contrary to what we have seen over the years, if you talk about quant was definitely very easy this time. One needed to spend some time, and more importantly, one needed to move to that section which most people avoid actually generally. But I think that's where understanding of the strategy and the paper comes very handy actually. So now the time which most of the students are looking forward to actually. So it's about the cutoff. They have been waiting anxiously. They are getting impatient actually. So while the exact cutoffs will be known by tomorrow, I would say, or by tonight, when all of you come together and and submit your attempts. Actually, we'll get to know what is the performance going on. But if you look at this paper, I think this is more around somewhere on midway between 2020 and 2021. So at this juncture, we expect the cutoff for the top three NLUs, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Calcutta, could be upwards of 90 plus. It's not going to be as high as 2021, but anything around 90 or more than that will definitely ensure the top three NLUs actually for a general category student. Expected cutoff in the SC category could be around 75 plus for the top three and 60 plus for the ST category students actually. So while there could be a lot of variations, especially when it comes to the categories, but I think for the general category, 90 could definitely, 90 or anything above that will definitely ensure one gets into NUJS Kolkata. Okay, now as far as CLAT is concerned, at this juncture, the process when the counseling starts, when the students are required to submit the preference of the NLUs, that has not come out. The consortium has not revealed that as of now, but hopefully by tonight, hopefully they will release all the timelines. We'll get to know when they are releasing the answer keys to the question paper, what will be the time frame given for any objections to be raised if required. And and if you talk about let's say when does the counseling process start, because the timelines are going to be very short, so and the amount has to be paid. But nevertheless, we'll be coming back tomorrow at 5 p.m. I'll be coming live once again on the LST channel, where I'll be talking about what it takes to be part of the counseling process, how the counseling process is conducted by the consortium, and what should be your preference of NLUs, because you'll not be getting much time once the announcements is done. So during the session tomorrow at 5 p.m., I'll be covering. So do come back to this platform. And don't forget to go to the score calculator page today itself. It's getting live in another 5 minutes. www.lawentrance.com/CLAT. That is where you can go and check your scores. The answer keys would be also available over there. Once you put in your scores, once you put in your attempts, you'll also get to see the answer keys, and you'll get to know about your scores. This will help you take all the necessary calls which would be required in terms of any other planning which you might be required to do actually. So Uh, don't forget to subscribe to our different social media platforms. And for all the students who are appearing for ALET on coming Sunday, the entire team of Career Launcher wishes you all the best. I'm sure you'll give your best performance despite what happened today. ALET is scheduled on 26th of June. You have symbiosis examination coming on 3rd of July. So from the entire CL family, we wish you all the best as far as these examinations are concerned. And do join us tomorrow at 5 p.m. on the Law Entrance channel for a session on post CLAT exam processes, how the counseling will be conducted, and what should be the preference of NLUs, which you'll be putting up in the application form, which will be released for those who will get the scores and those who will be considered for counseling. So on behalf of entire CL team, we'll take your leave and thank you for joining us today evening. I know it was difficult. Most of you might be still on your way back to your hometowns after giving your CLAT paper in a different city. But thank you once again. You have joined us today. Don't forget to use the score calculator and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. And thank you all to the panelist member who have joined me today, Siddharth, Priyanka, Rahul, and Pooja. Thank you so much for being here.
For all of you, thank you for